So I was asked to record a video all about strumming, and I understand that maybe for some people that play left-handed upside-down guitar, that's going to be a concern because you think that everything is going to sound backwards because, you know, your downstroke is going to go like that. You might be concerned that everything you play is going to sound like disco or is going to sound all kind of just weird and funky like constant upstrokes, but that is not the case, so have no fear. For starters, I'm going to be using a pick. I don't normally use a pick anymore, but when I first started playing guitar, I was in various, bands and things, and I played for, I swear, the first year I played guitar, I played nothing but downstrokes with a pick. So if you're playing power chords, that's great. You just play downstrokes. And that's easy because, when you're playing that fast, you can't tell really that that maybe this string is hitting before this string. It's all the same, but if you apply that to chords that involve all 6 strings, that you can still. So you'll notice that I've just kind of gotten in the habit of hitting like down, down, and then full. So it's kind of like a. And I just started to get into that habit, and so it kind of sounds more like a right-hander would sound when they're playing guitar. So you can do it with just downstrokes like that. But then after a year or two of doing that, I decided, well, maybe I'd want to incorporate some upstrokes, expand my palette a little bit, and I had a heck of a time doing it, because now instead of just using your elbow, because you've got your elbow moving on downstrokes, now you're using your wrist, and those are really the only 2 things that are working when you're strumming. So I started to I'd hold a pick in my hand, and as I was walking along, I'd kind of strum it against the backs of these fingers, and I'd practice just doing that with my wrist so that I could kind of do downstrokes and upstrokes, or to the right-handed ear, upstrokes and downstrokes. But what that allows you to do then is now you can kind of incorporate the wrist twisting with that elbow. So So I was able to do it that way. So that's kind of like you're still kind of hitting those, down lower strings for those first couple of notes of the measure, and then maybe the upper ones. That's just kind of another one. That's more of a, I don't know, kind of a folky type rhythm, as opposed to something that involves a lot of muted staccato strings. But regardless, it's a matter of practicing with your elbow, and then practicing with your wrist, and then being able to kind of incorporate those things together at the same time. Eventually, I kind of just stopped using a pick, so I'll go ahead and put the pick away. I don't really know why I stopped using a pick. I think maybe it had to do with having a small child in the house and having to play quieter so as to not wake somebody up. I don't know. But I started to kind of do these types of things where I would kind of use the backs of these fingernails. And then when you do that, your hand is also there, and you can very easily mute the strings in a percussive way. And then you can kind of, when you twist your wrist, you can bring the back of that thumb along on your upstroke, which sounds like a downstroke. So it's. So what you have going on here is, so I'm kind of stroke, and then I'm doing like stroke on these lower notes, and then muting percussively, and then kind of dragging with the back of my thumb on the way up. So it's. So like I'm kind of lifting up on these strings to kind of get that staccato-y thing. But so I started doing this thing where I'm kind of using the backs of these fingernails And I'm also kind of muting with the side of my hand. You don't have to do that, but in certain songs that sounds kind of cool, so you're getting a percussive effect added to your strumming. And then you can kind of drag your thumb on the way up. So so and I'm kind of bad at explaining it because it's easy enough to talk about what you do here in the right hand as, oh, you put this finger here and this finger here, but when you're talking about the left hand, it's not so simple as put this finger here, because it's a fluid motion. You're going kind of constantly, and so for lack of a better way of putting it, you just have to feel it, and that's kind of really how it began. Like I was saying in the early days, how I would kind of instinctively hit these lower notes first, just because that's kind of what your ear is used to hearing. And then eventually you just kind of start to feel it. And when you're playing fast enough, like I said before, it really doesn't matter that maybe this string is the first one to be hit as opposed to this string. It's all kind of coming around rhythmically regardless. So that's probably about all I can say about strumming, is that, practice downstrokes for your elbow, and then for your upstrokes, that's all in the wrist. You can practice on the back of your fingers. I tend to use very flexible picks personally for strumming, if I'm going to use a pick at all. So you can practice the wrist twist that way. So it's all, it's all elbow and wrist. And then if you want to move beyond picks, you can start to do this kind of, for me, it's just the back of these two fingers, and then I use the palm for muting if I feel like it, and then you kind of use the back of your thumbnail on the upstroke. Kind of like I was doing with that. So that's strumming. Hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully it wasn't too fast, but in the long run, what really matters with your strumming hand is just doing it over and over again and just getting the feel for it, because it's all feel. It's not like a finger picking thing where you can really calculate it based on this beat of the measure. It's just, it's feeling it. So good luck.